Good morning. I'm Eric Stewart. I'm your host today. Just for the sake of conversation, I just want to take a moment and say hi from my office here. It's good to see everybody. Hopefully you can see me here. So this is my humble abode where I do a good bit of my writing and my preparation for my radio show on Sunday mornings. If you've not listened before, you can join me from 8 to 8:30 on Sundays on WMAL. I have a radio show now 17 years in practice, and I chat about the market every Sunday and answer questions, which you'll have a chance today to ask me questions in the webinar. We're going to focus on pricing today. We're going to focus on how to price your home within this market climate, but I'll also be happy to answer questions about condition or anything about the market. That's the purpose of the Coffee with Eric Stewart focus here, is just have a kind of a casual conversation. I'll chat about things. I want you to feel free at any point to make comments. Use the go-to webinar control panel that you have, which is is right there on your screen, and there's a questions tab. And if you don't mind, if you're just joining us, type in "I can hear you" so that I know you're listening and you can hear me speaking to you. Okay, type that in there and let me know if I can just maybe see a couple of you all there. Then I'm going to go ahead and move the screen back to great, Wayne. Thanks, Jerry. Good. Okay, thanks, Gerald. Good. Great. Sounds like everybody's on board and can hear me just fine. So good. Appreciate that. All right, I'm going to move back to our main screen and get started with our presentation today. All right, well, here we go. So pricing your home and the challenge of pricing your home, it's really fascinating how in this business, 34 years, how I see some real estate agents price homes without a clear understanding of why they're pricing it at a specific point. It's a guess for them, how they should ask a price in order to get a price. Case in point, we just sold a home which we listed for $1 million. And this is in Potomac, Maryland, in the Fox Hills West subdivision. $1 million asking price, and we settled at $1,170,000. It's a 2,700 square foot home with a partial basement that was finished. Between the basement finished and the upstairs finished, altogether about 3,250 square feet, but that's on all levels. There are other houses on the market. There's one that's actually larger that's at $1,095,000 and sitting there. Others at $850,000 and $845,000 and so on. Again, sitting there, not getting activity. But why is that? Why is it that some homes sell right away and others don't? The combination of how a home is presented, which is the marketing of that property, and the effective presentation of photos and good content to describe the property, as well as the actual price itself as a key element, and then the patience for offers that could come in, meaning not anticipating trying to sell the house within a day or two, but rather focus on pricing it correctly and waiting 6 to 7 days to look at offers at that point. So we'll chat now about that. Feel free to chime in the questions tab of your go-to webinar control panel with any questions that you have as we run forward. Little background on me. You probably heard this before. I'm sorry if I'm boring you by telling you this information, but look, here's the reality. You got to know what my background is. I've been doing this. This has been my career since I graduated from college at the age of 23. I took a year off. I was an acting major in college and I studied economics. And I'd been in sales since I was a kid, selling pizzas door to door to my neighbors when I was 9. So I've always had that enjoyment of working with people and finding value and selling value and so on. And it's just always been there. I decided I didn't want to be an actor, and I fell into real estate. Although, if you trust God's providence in the matter, things work out for a reason. So, playing basketball with a group of guys, they were all part of a real estate company, and I joined that group. It was at that time called Llewellyn Realtors, a Welsh name. Was there 25 years, and then Llewellyn sold their business to Long and Foster. So here I am now, 8 years with Long and Foster, and 160 homes sold annually. I'm a seniors real estate specialist. I'm a Dave Ramsey endorsed local provider for 13 years. Any of you all know who Dave Ramsey is? If you do, type that in to the questions tab. I'd love to know. I've also hosted a weekly radio show on WMAL for many, many years now. Since 2004, I've been on the radio. And lastly, I run a nonprofit to help widows and widowers in the DMV. I founded this because I saw a demographic need and no systematic way of supporting through peer-led support groups. These are groups that are led by widows and widowers who've been a part of widow care for some period of time. We have a board that's robust, and if you know a widow or widower who would enjoy connecting with other widows and widowers, encourage them to check out widowcare.org. That is our website, widowcare.org. Great, thanks. All right, okay, great. Hey, Gerald, thank you, Wayne. Thanks for listening to this show, and appreciate that I've got you all here to introduce you to my team. This is my office team, and these are the real estate agents in my team, licensed in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. We're licensed in all 3 jurisdictions, but we also provide referrals outside of the area. If you're looking to buy in Florida or Arizona or sell something somewhere else, we can help you find a realtor anywhere, okay? Majority of our homes sell in 10 days or less at 100% of list price. Our fiduciary responsibilities provide care, obedience. What does that mean? It means that we'll tell you what we think, but we'll always do what you ask. We're accountable to you, we're loyal to you, and we follow full disclosure under law. And when everybody's looking like this, although not so much now, this really is almost irrelevant, right? I mean, I still see some folks walking around this way. Certainly in some shops, like I went to a shop yesterday, and actually I went to a condominium building to go look at a condo with a seller to give them an estimate of what it would sell for. The condominium building still demands everybody wears a mask. Guess what? Nobody was wearing a mask. Okay, I think we're past the mask phase. So this is going to be gone soon. Coronavirus brought some impact into pricing, timing, and condition. Now that we're lifting, the lasting impact of improving pricing over this past year and a half is nothing short of dramatic. And we consider 6 elements in pricing: the square footage of a home. Do you all understand what the square footage of a home is? It's essentially the area on any levels in the property. And we have levels above grade having a higher value and below grade a lesser value. We have overall market direction. Which way is the market heading? The historical comparables. How is it that homes are priced based upon the past? The timing within a given year, when our price is going to achieve their highest number. What's the condition of a property? What's the replacement cost? You know, it's fascinating. In this year, we've seen the replacement cost for real estate, the bricks, the sticks, as we call the lumber, has jumped dramatically. So just getting something built just costs a lot more. So with a larger square footage, you've got just a comparison. This is a property on the left-hand side. We look at this map essentially, and we create a map for each one of our listings because we want to verify square footage. What I mean by that is you may have a tax assessment that you're paying taxes on for your property. And that tax assessment might be accurate, but it might not. It might be accurate in that it's correct all the way through. It could be low in square footage because either you or the original owner of the home added specific features and the tax assessor missed it, like say like a bay window, which is only 8 square feet of additional space, but it's 8 square feet and it has a value. As Buffett would say, Warren Buffett, price is what you pay, but the value is what you get. So we make sure every one of our listings is measured so that our representation of the square footage is accurate for you as a home seller. This property in Dunloring that we sold last year, 4,276 square feet. The main level and the upper level together were almost 3,000 square feet, and then the lower level was 1,079. But in addition to that, there was a 250 square foot upper level, so top floor. So add all those things together, and you have the total square feet, including unfinished space, of 4,276. So we share that, then we share the finished square footage, and we share what's the finished square footage above grade, meaning above the basement. And it's important to reference all of those as you're representing size, so that a buyer, apple to apple, you could have a house that, like one realtor says it's 4,276 square feet, which is all the square footage. It doesn't really specify that it's a lot of unfinished square feet. Or you could have above grade square feet, which is then you can compare the size of a home above if you clarify and say it's above grade. I had a neighbor call me the other day, yesterday in fact, asking this question. Hey, I'm confused by what this other real estate agent is saying. And I explained to them about how the agent was not telling that the total square footage included the basement. And once I pointed that out, they thought, okay, now I get it. So anyway, it's important we are accurate. I had a home on Warren Street in Washington, D.C. about 5 years ago. And somewhere in the history of this 1920 row house, there was a screened-in porch off the back, perhaps, maybe a sleeping porch of some kind that was not finished. It was essentially you'd walk outside and have a screen. You could sleep out there in the summer if the house was too hot on the inside. This is before air conditioning. Well, that was finished and became interior finished square footage and was heated and cooled with ductwork, adding that additional square footage to the overall finished square footage of the property. But guess what? The tax assessment did not reveal that additional square footage. Why do you think that is? Here's a good question. Why do you think the tax assessment didn't include that finished area that had been a screened-in porch? All right. Anybody want to venture a guess on that? Type it into your GoToWebinar control panel question bar. Nobody has an answer for me? Okay. All right. Well, probably because at some point in the past, one of the owners of that property decided they would just do it. And they didn't call DC, they didn't pull a permit. You know, they called their friend and they said, hey, I need somebody to come over here and bring ductwork in and put some drywall up. I just want to take this screening porch and turn it into another finished area of my property. And no one noticed it because it was a screened-in porch and nobody paid attention to it. But now the overall square footage of the property is much larger, right? Even if it wasn't permitted. Now, as a real estate agent, I have no idea why. I'm just guessing why. This is my guess why it wasn't included. When I met with the seller, and I was one of several real estate agents that met with the seller, and I said, you know, I really think the tax assessments are wrong on this. And he said, really? And I said, yes. And I walked it and I said, see here. He's like, wow, you know, the other real estate agents didn't see this. And I said, well, you as the seller of the property can advertise the finished square footage, whether it was permitted or not. We just have to put in the disclosure that we're not sure about whether it was permitted or not. Then the buyer, it's on the buyer's shoulders. And frankly, in this kind of hot market, buyers are really they're willing to take on anything right now. It's like the perfect storm if you're trying to sell a property in as-is condition. Anybody have any questions on square footage and how we we add square footage. We want to make sure it's accurate so we can compare one property to another and then come up with the right price per square foot. Above grade square feet is better than below grade square feet, except in rare occasions. If you're in an out of ground townhome where there's no basement, but you drive into a garage, it's got a rec room behind, you go upstairs to the first floor and you go upstairs again to the master and the other bedrooms, that's all above grade. There's no basement in that situation. So it has a higher value because it's above the earth. It's more likely people will use space that's above the ground than go down into a basement and spend their life there. We all want light. We all want to be above ground. I guess we all want to be above ground, right? Better than the alternative. So, all right, appreciate your input on anything I'm sharing. This is a property I sold down in Cleveland Park last year, and this is a home that was listed at $1,900,000, and we sold for $1,970,000. Now, the reason I'm bringing this forward is that the price for the property I felt was going to be $1,900,000 originally, but the market continued to improve when we went to contract in early 20, and we got $70,000 higher than that. And what were the key considerations? I call it the accessibility, the schools, the location, the orientation, and the elevation. As you look at a property, how accessible is it to getting to the doctor's office or the metro or things like that, or accessibility to get into the property if you have a handicap. This is a 4-story with a basement, Wardman brick town row house, right? So if you've got an ambulatory issue, this accessibility is kind of weak for you. It doesn't have as much value. We consider schools. This is Washington, D.C. Okay, what are the schools in that area? And schools from this area to that area can vary. Location, orientation, is it east to west? The elevation, is it a Dutch colonial? There are different values for different looks, right? Any questions on that? Nope. Okay. I'm going to move forward. So here are 3 kitchens in the same neighborhood last year, where, this is a 1970s, like 1972 laminate countertop, cabinetry, upgraded laminate countertop, vinyl floor, newer appliances, but nothing high end, and an above mount sink. This kitchen's just above average, but barely. This kitchen was redone with all cherry cabinet. There was backsplash in ceramic tile, Corian countertops, which were very popular in the 90s. So this would date this to the mid to late 90s. A Sub-Zero fridge, tile floor, a little better value on this, right? Probably worth about $25,000 more because of the cabinets. And granted, the age, if this was newer, like this one on the far right, this is a maple cabinet with a mahogany burnish on it, a quartz countertop, pendant lighting, updraft here on the cooking, actual hardwood floor. So this would have more in the $50,000 to $75,000 bump in value. So we compare condition of one property to another to come up with the fair market value. Take a quick moment and mention to you, if you have not received a copy of the guide that I wrote called the Market Ready Guide, I invite you today to type in your name and your address here so I can mail you a copy. And in that is a section on how, what gives you the best return on an investment. Like, does it make sense to replace the whole kitchen, or does it make more sense to just change the countertop? Where do you make money in the home sale? Let's have a little fun right now. I'm going to ask you to give me, I want you to guess something here. What do you think in any home, and I'm not talking about, replace the bathroom, replace the kitchen. Tell me the 3 changes in a home that will make you the most money on the home sale. And on the other side of that, and if you only want to give me one or two, that's fine. But just if you have three, what you think are the top three changes you could make to improve the value of your property, and what are two changes to your property you should not make to sell because you won't make money on those. Curious to know if any of you guys have any ideas on that. So take a moment now, type those into the go-to webinar control panel. I'll give everybody a minute and a half here to think that out and come up with your ideas. Okay? All right, go ahead. And I'm going to mute my mic rather, and I'll be back in 90 seconds. Go. Okay, well, Karen, I got to say, you're the brave one, Karen. Now, Gerald, I appreciate you really don't know, and I accept that. I didn't hear from everybody else. That's totally fine. Karen, though, thank you for braving this. So top three changes Karen suggested: bathroom, change; kitchen, change; can't think of another room; landscape is important. Okay, good. Karen, I'm going to jump in on what you've suggested here to compliment you. Let's get specific, okay? If you're going to change something in the bathroom, what's going to make you the most money? Well, frankly, a new vanity, new mirror, and new light to what is current and modern, plus towel bar, toilet paper holder, and possibly knobs on the cabinets. Changing cabinets themselves, not as critical. Sometimes just paint that, but just the accoutrements in a bathroom can change the value perception. You can take a bathroom from the 1950s, classic black and white tile, even a pink and white tile, and you can bring in brushed nickel, you can upgrade the vanity, get away from an old style light or an old Broadway light fixture, with the like 8 lights across the top. Move out of those and move into modern lights, modern vanity, modern medicine cabinet, even keep tile that's there. A further adjustment could be doing an epoxy finish on the tile. If you need to get out of a like green, that light green color that was very popular also in the 50s, not so popular, right? Dates it. You can actually put Porcelaite is the company that will coat your old tile and make it look new. Pretty cool. So that's a good guess, and that's definitely one of the top three. Kitchen. Okay, so in the kitchen, it's the countertops and the appliances. It's not the cabinets. Now, the cabinets could be 1955, 1965 pine cabinets. Like Kettler Brothers, when they built homes in the 60s, they did a knotty pine cabinet that, if it was never painted before, you could leave the knotty pine there, put new knobs on it, replace the counter with a quartz countertop of some kind, put an undermount sink in the kitchen. All told, you're probably in the average kitchen $2,000 to $3,000 in the plumbing, undermount sink, new faucet, and new counter, maybe $3,500 to $4,000 on the outside, depending upon that quartz product. Changing that will make a huge difference with an older cabinet. It won't change everything, so putting new knobs on, really inexpensive. Changing your floor is a potential. If the floor is, Mannington Gold from 1988, pull that up, put a new vinyl tile down. You don't have to put anything extravagant. And then the appliances, pulling out white or black appliances and putting in new stainless steel appliances. Changing cabinets rarely makes us money, okay? In fact, the average complete kitchen renovation ends up with you spending $1 and only getting 70 cents back. So doing a complete kitchen renovation, unless you're doing a whole house renovation for some reason, like the house altogether is in as-is condition, you're trying to bring it from where it was as is all up into new, complete renovation of the bathrooms, kitchen, and so on. Well, you do that, it's got to make sense. The integrity of all these spaces have to work together. Okay, on the windows, I get this question. I've even walked in where a home seller has just changed the windows. Hey, what do you think of my new windows? And they spent $20,000 on windows. New windows do make a difference in how a home, or even 30,000, sometimes 40,000, depending upon the quality of the windows. But generally speaking, windows are not where you make money on the sale. We make money with windows more in the savings month to month of what it costs us for the utilities to heat and cool our properties. Okay, so don't change your windows to get the house sold unless they're hideous and everything else is looking pretty darn good. All right, any questions on any of that? All right. Oh, Wayne jumps in, upgraded kitchen and bathroom, but not necessarily totally renovated. Correct. Amy, renovate the kitchen, recarpet and paint the entire home, replace outdated vanities. Right on. In fact, you guys are right on there. The recarpeting and repainting. The top 3 ways to make money is decluttering, because as a rule, decluttering removes the impediment of sight, of feeling that you're crowded in a space, and helps us. There's decluttering and there's staging. Decluttering is the removal to make a space feel larger, as if there's still more than enough room. A closet where the clothes are not so packed that you have to play a tug and war to pull something out. Rather, there's space between each one of the coats. Okay. Neutralizing the walls, new color, definitely changes the overall feel. Carpets. So the carpet can be like, say, a hunter green that would be very popular in the 90s. Time to pull that out for resale and just put in a different color, generally a lighter color. Again, on the sale side, it may be different on how the practical use side would be. You may not want a light color where you're living because of how your kids live, or you have a dog or that kind of thing. But for selling, you make generally $2 for every $1 you put in carpet and paint. Okay. Good, good, good feedback, everybody. Thank you, Amy. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks, Karen. The overall market directions. Well, I'm going to show you a few graphs here. On the top left is the active listings. And what you're seeing here is a baseline. I want you to focus on this bottom left corner. You see 4,000 homes here. So going back to June of 2018, in the month of June, there were about 9,500 homes available. It drifted a little bit in the summer, and then the inventory increased in September and October. That's normal. We had over 10,000 homes active then. Then there's a capitulation that occurs over 2 months, November and December. And this is in real time. So the number of listings in November dropped precipitously, a solid 12% drop, and then another solid like 25% drop. And then bases out here in January, February, where the least number of homes are active on the market at that point in time. Now, that just implies that folks got tired of trying, or they decided they were going to kick their plans off until the new year because they wanted to enjoy Christmas or Hanukkah, right? And then all of a sudden, the inventory increases again because we recommend that our home sellers put their houses on the market at this point, because the biggest demand for move, which is driven mostly by schools and the timing, going to shop, going to contract, going to settlement in May, maybe renting back to the old owner until the 3rd or 4th week of June when the school is out, making the jump, move in, and then we're finished, and then we go on vacation and get ready for school. That's the perfect scenario for families. That's what's driving this period of inventory active listings. Now notice again, then the next year we saw this drop from close to 10,000 to just over 8,000 in 2019, to just around 6,000 last year, to just this year right around 5,300. So we're down about 15% again. Give you perspective here, we were up about 12,000 homes 5 years ago. So there's been a contraction in supply. By itself, that just means that there are less homes on the market at any given point in time. Now, if we take the inventory and we add the speed with which the inventory is being absorbed, that gives us now an indication of how quick the market is, right? And probably will help us understand the price increase that we're going to see in our last graph. But let's focus now. Median days in the market increased in 2018 from 12 days on average in June up to almost 32 to 33 days in the market for the homes that settled in January. Okay, so if a home settled in January, it probably settled after having been on the market for an average of 30 days. which implies that the home sat for longer because there was less demand later in the year. Same thing happened in 19. Same thing happened in 20, though it was negligible because the market remained strong all year long last year. Oops. If I look here at this year, you see a further drop in the median days. So it's averaging 5 or 6 days on the market. I think you're going to see this spike this summer up to close to 10 days. I mean, still negligible, because I'm seeing a greater, not so much greater supply, but the supply that's coming to the market is not being absorbed as quickly. We're in a little bit of a pause, typical, a little bit of a pause right now. I doubt that's going to continue, though. I personally think the market's going to take off again and drive forward. I think there's a pause here. I wonder if maybe things are going to fall. I get this question, Eric, is the market going to crash? What's going to happen next? Are we going to see prices fall? It seems like the market's getting quiet. Does that mean we're about to see things come off the cliff? And I'd say no. Honestly, this is the opportunity to strike as a buyer and get the property and not have to pay more than you have to. All right. Now, the pricing, we see this undulation. Oops, sorry, wrong. Okay, there we go. We see how in June of 18, prices hit a peak. This is realized price. So this would be settlement in June. Therefore, the contract was in April or February, or even early April, March, maybe late February to settle in June. So this was our peak price, was June of 18. Prices drifted lower. They popped a little bit in the fall, and then they dropped for January. And then they rose for settlements in June of 19, and then they drifted, and then popped, and then drifted, and then rose in 20 to the peak in July, because we had a month delay, to a drifting, and then an increase in price this year. Now look at this jump here. What's dramatic about this is that the previous years you see a rise, and the rise is consistently on this rise. You see how I'm moving my mouse across it? It's kind of in this angle. This year, the angle gets sharper to the upside. Now, prices are going to stabilize here, and they're going to drift from here at least for the next couple of months. And then I think there's a chance that you'll see prices jump again this fall and hit 600,000 on the median. I don't know for sure. I feel very confident that the median sale price will hit 600 next spring. So if you're thinking of home selling, my encouragement to you is, if you're not pressed to sell, have one of my real estate agents come see you and advise you on getting prepared. Now is a good time to start your prep process for 2022. We've got about 7 months ahead of us, maybe 8 months ahead of us. Now's the time to get priced out correctly, get the plan of action for preparation to achieve that price. And if you're not moving for a couple years, fine. If you're moving in the next 6 months and you don't have to move, I would say focus on spring of next year. If you want to sell, or you've just come off trying to sell and you want to get back on the market because you want to achieve something, I think the market's going to be robust and strong, and we're not having issues selling in our group. We've sold 126 homes this year. It's the best year we've had. And this week, we've just put 4 more properties under contract. So if you're ready, give us a call, 800-900-9104, or submit your information at ericstewartgroup.com. Okay, questions on this part of the market direction? What do you think about my suggestion prices are going to keep going higher? Anybody object to that? Okay, Karen says nope. Nope. She thinks that it will continue to rise too. All right, Karen, thanks for your opinion on that. All right, we'll see what happens. I think you could see a 10 maybe even a 15% rise in prices next year. Okay. If this inventory trend continues the way that it is, there's going to be less inventory next year. There's going to be more desperation, more capitulation in the mind of a buyer to say, oh God, I thought I was going to have a chance to pay less. I'm just going to have to do it now. See, we get to that and we finally get to what's called a blow off top. Anybody know what a blow off top is? Anybody ever heard that phrase before? You know, at some point, irrationality comes in to the buying of real estate, comes into the buying of stocks, comes into the buying of collectibles, Cabbage Patch, or whatever it is. Because once people believe there's a value to something, and then they see the value move higher and they've missed the opportunity to get that higher value, they then start to argue with themselves, oh, just wait till it comes back. But if they need it, like real estate, you need to have a home to live in, and rates are so low. I had this conversation with a buyer the other day. I said, look, this is the new normal. And you can, they made an offer on a townhouse back in January with our group at 760. I told them to go higher. They weren't willing to. Dad got involved and said, no, prices in this neighborhood have never been more than this range. I don't think it's there. Dad won the conversation, even though I'm the real estate expert. Well, they just bought another home on the same street for $830,000. But they got there over 5 months of making offers on a few places and coming to the fact that this is the new normal and that the rates are so good right now that they better move on this now. They better move, because even though the prices have gone up, the price of money has gone down. And I think that 830 could be at 900 next year, and rates might be at 3.25%. Who knows? So they'll pay more in terms of the cost of money and more on the property. The blow off top happens when we get that mindset from a lot of people of like, I just have got to get a house. We got some of that this spring. It lasted for about 5 weeks. Prices, boom, which is why that this last graph here, you see that spike upwards. It's a good time right now to buy, because you can actually, in the weakness of the current environment, you actually could probably negotiate about a 5% adjustment in the list price of real estate if you want it. But then it's going to pop again. And I think this trend is going to be to the upside, and it's going to be dramatic. And then we're going to get to this blow off top, this point, which is probably in 2023, where things are just like unreasonable, and you either hit it or you don't. If you don't hit it, you end up selling for less. If you hit it, you end up, hitting it right. If you're a buyer and a seller at the same time, you've got to think about, like, if I'm you and you are selling and buying something else, we need to come up with a creative solution together to help you buy first this fall. Okay? Buy in November, buy in December, and then sell in January, February. Because the switch there in pricing back in '88, back in 2004, I was helping my clients sell after they purchased, and in a matter of 3 months, my clients saved money on the purchase because the market was softer, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and so on, and the buy side was hotter because now it's the new year. It's so dramatic. So we can take a double spread advantage. So if you're at that place and you're thinking of doing both, talk with us. Let us help you understand that strategy. Okay? All right. All right. So questions on any of this? Karen says, what about your inventory with home prices in the 700,000 and up? Can you clarify what you mean? What about your inventory? Do you mean, actually, can you clarify what you're asking? I'm sorry, Karen, thank you. Okay, Karen says, are you selling quickly at 700 and up? The answer is yes. Unless there's an objection to a property like it backs up to a power line pole. Like I have one right now, believe it or not, the address for the property is 13, that's the address, and it backs up to a an electrical high wire electrical line that's right behind the property. So it's got an unlucky number, it's got a pole behind it, but it's a great buy for a 5-bedroom, 3-bath home in the Churchill School District for $750. But the objection to the pole and the number, interesting, right? We got to wait for the right buyer, because honestly, it's a fair price at $750 for what it is. Generally speaking, everything is selling like this, even over 700, just like that. Okay. So Gerald asks, what effects will rising interest rates have on prices, and how soon you hit the top? So I personally believe that interest rates are going to have very little impact. All right, I think you're going to have very little impact. If you're just joining me, would you mind just typing into the GoToWebinar Control Panel questions tab, I'm here, or I can hear you. I've just noticed that we have a new attendee. I just want to make sure you can hear me. Gerald, your question, what effect will rising interest rates have on prices, and how soon you hit the top? All right, let's look at this together. Let's consider that if you borrow $1,000 at 3%, it's going to cost you $4.21 per month. To borrow $1,000, you'll have to pay $4.21 every month for 30 years. Okay? If you borrow at 4%, any ideas on how much more it would cost? Well, it's roughly $50 more per month at 4 versus 3%. So if you're borrowing, let's pretend we have a home that we're selling for $600,000, and a buyer's putting down $100,000 and therefore borrowing $500,000. And we multiply that 500 times $4.21, 500 times $4.21. We now have a principal and interest payment of $2,105. So $2,105 is the cost of the money, and then we add the taxes of the property and the insurance for the property. All right. So if we now take 4%, which is roughly $50 more, $4.71 times 500, we've gone to $23.55 a month. So $2,105 to $23.55, roughly $250 more per month. What do you have to make to afford that? You got to make about 2.5 to 3 times the extra cost. So 250, let's say times 3, is $750 a month, or times 12 is an additional $9,000 in income. It's going to have an effect on people's ability to purchase, but it's not overwhelming. You go to 5%, you have a similar effect. It's another $9,000, roughly, okay? You go to 6%, you've increased the cost of your principal and interest payment by 50%. So where it was $2,100, you jump to about $3,000. So that means that you got to make about $36,000 more. The higher the interest rate goes, the more difficult it becomes for a buyer to purchase, and the more it will put brakes on rising prices and demand. But let's look at the numbers of buyers who are out purchasing real estate, actually needing a property, and the fact that there's no new inventory being created except in condominiums. All the new home developments priced out way higher. Builders are having to pay so much for land. Most districts are taxing the purchasers on the purchase, or the builders on the development of a new home, for impact. Impact meaning that we'll charge a builder $40,000 because they're putting a new house on a lot. We can use that for the schools. Well, guess who pays for that? The impact is really put on the backs of the buyer because the price is no longer 600, it's now 640, 650. Okay, I'll draw this to a conclusion and we'll finish up for the day. The impact on rising rates on the market is going to be negligible until we get to about 5%. And there's not a likelihood we're going to jump to 5% over the next 2 years. But as rates rise, we will see some attrition, some drop off of purchasers who can afford it, but not that many, because the impact on the base buyer, think about the seller that we just talked about who's selling a 600, the buyer's buying 600, putting $100,000 down and borrowing 500. The person who's selling 6 is going to be moving to 850 or 9. The 9 is going to be moving to $1.2 million, $1.3 million, unless they're downsizing, and the $1.3 million is going to jump to 1.8, 1.9. See, we unlock all the way up. And as prices have increased over the past 3 years, and as they continue to increase, a buyer who bought for 400 2 years ago, whose house is now worth 500, will then have a home worth 600. They sell it, they've got 150 equity they can put down on $1 million, so they've got 10% down. They're borrowing more, yeah, slightly higher interest rate, but maybe their income's risen. I don't see a lot of challenge to market prices increasing unless we get over 5%, and we'll see what happens. Okay. Anybody have any other questions on this? Type those into the GoToWebinar Control Panel Questions tab, and I'll move on from here. The timing in any market, I've just mentioned, this is when there's greater demand over the supply of homes, and this is when there's greater supply and lesser demand, generally, with the exception of this past year. Replacement cost is like brick on the outside of a home versus vinyl. Oh, and let me tell you a quick story about this. This property right here, I think I was the 6th or 7th real estate agent to list this property for the previous owner. I first talked to her 8 or 9 years ago and told her what it would sell for at the time, and she didn't want to listen, so she hired somebody else to try a price who felt like they could get more. It went up, it went down, it went up, it went down, meaning it went up on the market, came off the market, went up, came off. Finally, she called me last year, and I saw the inventory trends, and here's what happened. That property went through the spring market of last year, didn't sell. We went into the summertime, and then we saw the inventory just sort of disappear, and nothing was available except for this home and maybe another house that was languishing on the market. And I just thought, you know what? Here we go. When you see houses that were leftovers get picked up, you know prices are jumping. You know they're going higher. So if you've got a home near you that's been on the market, off the market, on the market, off the market, and it's just not selling, and all of a sudden it sells, likely prices are about to go higher. And sure enough, this home finally sold, and prices went up from there a solid 10%. Thermal pane windows, replacement of like changing windows versus the old casement windows, or hardwoods versus carpet. These are things that we consider, though they don't impact the price as much as what a buyer perceives the value is. So when we're selling a home that has antique brick versus vinyl, it's important that we point out the benefit of never having to change the brick, right? You never have to change the brick, whereas the vinyl does wear out and it melts if you get your grill too close to it, right? So there are value plays here as well. Every home is unique and must be priced accordingly. Again, if you're at that point where you're getting ready to sell, whether you're 8 months out, whether you're 2 years out, or whether you're a month away, and you want a strategy for a buy, sell, or just to sell, then I invite you to interview one of my real estate agents in my group. I've created a system, 119 steps for selling our houses, for excellence in prospecting for purchasers and pitching to the purchasers the value, and excellence in processing with you through the sale, guiding you all the way through that. We invite you to contact us. We have the care and the loyalty and the guidance of excellence, the knowledge to help you through the process, not just the quality of marketing and so on. So reach out to us at ericstewartgroup.com. Shoot us an email. Again, if you'd like a copy of my Market Ready guide, that's that free guide that has the return on investments for things you can do, plus the timing chart that I showed you, which just as a memory reminder, type your information in here and we'll gladly send that out to you. I've got my assistant on the webinar with me today and we'll mail that at no charge. It's all good. So I have, I actually want to get some advice from all of you, and I'm going to ask you a question that has to do with an opportunity that I've been presented with. And I appreciate you taking the time to give me your thoughts, if you don't mind. I've been on the radio for 17 years, and I've had a recorded show. It's been recorded, and it's a half-hour recorded show. WMAL, which is the station I'm on, block programming on the weekends, has presented me with an opportunity to do a live show for an hour where I take questions live and answer them live between 8 a.m. and 9 o'clock on Sunday mornings. And the commitment for me would be leaving my home at 7, getting to the station at 7:30, doing the live show from 8 to 9, and then getting home by 9:30. So it's every week a 2.5-hour commitment to give an hour live on the radio versus, half an hour in studio to record a half-hour show. The interaction, I think, would be very good. But the time commitment, and I'm just curious if you have an opinion about live radio versus recorded radio and what you think the benefit, or if you think it's, don't do it or anything. I'm just looking for insight. I just got this yesterday and I'm reached out to my parents this morning, contacted my team members. I'm, getting different pieces of information. I appreciate any thoughts you have, if you don't mind. So if you have any thoughts, just type in to the questions tab and let me know what you think about that. All right, I've had 2 of you all respond, and thank you, Gerald. Thanks, Jerry, for your feedback. Gerald says, stay home with your family. Good. Right. I mean, that is definitely a consideration, is that I would eliminate my time in the morning. I would end up coming home and then spending time with family, heading to church, whatever. So Jerry says, would not recommend it. The 30-minute show is great. Well, thank you, Jerry. That's so nice of you. Jerry, it's interesting. So just as a counter to that, I'm at that point where, having done this for many years, I feel like maybe I do need a change to move into a sort of a different way of communicating, because I've been recording the show for so long. And 17 years of doing that, I feel like I'm at that point where I need to do something different. Any input from anybody? Karen says, I think keeping it to a half hour as your time worth and commitment takes its toll. You are listened to regularly and you look at your cost basis and revenue. Whatever you decide, good luck. Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Amy, I think it'd be good for you to interact with potential customers on a live format. Sunday's usually the day when realtors do showings and open houses. That's true. Wayne says, your current show seems like it is live, even though it might not be. An hour-long live while being more interactive is a big commitment for you. This is absolutely the case. Thank you guys for your care for me, personally. And this is interesting. My mother brought the same thing. Hey, honey, it's 2.5 hours every Sunday to do this, versus recording the show in advance. You sure you want to do that? Make that commitment. I'm not sure, guys. I'm not sure. I find that my ability to answer questions and engage, I think there's more for me, but maybe the thought is to try to find a different time of day, maybe afternoon, Sunday afternoon, like a 1 o'clock show on a Sunday afternoon when folks are puttering around in their garage. You might listen 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3, something like that. Maybe Saturday afternoon. I don't know. If you have any other thoughts for me, I would be grateful. Jerry says, it's a short time. The questions would become repetitive. Interesting. Okay. Wayne says, I agree. The half hour is great as well. Thank you, Kevin. Will there be enough questions coming in every week? The questions that I get are consistently different. Now, granted, there's the age-old question, where can I make the best return on my investment? Well, everybody's home's gonna be a little bit different. So I would then engage with a listener and, Bob, tell me about the house that you're in. When was it built? What are the colors of the carpets? What are the this? What are the that? It was built in the 40s. Okay, is it brick and block construction? Is it made with cinder block? I can start to address these things. You ever have water penetration come in? What are the major objections? Why haven't you made improvements? So I can address those things. We could talk radon, lead paint, termites. Um, you know, Similar to the show that I have now, where I tell stories about my experiences in real estate personally, or have my team members come in and share. We always seem to have fodder to share. But this way, the question comes in alive as opposed to me creating the question and then addressing the question. And I don't know, I kind of like the idea of doing that and trying it. But the commitment is big. These are all really, really good questions. All right. Well, I'm going to consider what all of you have shared, and I thank you. And if anybody else has any other thoughts, please jump in and share them here. And, if you think of anything else and you want to send me an email directly, feel free to send it to eric@ericstewartgroup.com. I'd be happy to answer your questions there too about your real estate if you'd like. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll bid us adieu and wish you a wonderful Thursday. Anybody else? Anything else? All right. Don't forget that we can be contacted here at 800-900-9104. AOC@ericstewartgroup.com will get you a quick response from our team. Of course, our website for signing up for things. We have other webinars we have on condition and timing the market more specifically, and I dig deep on those. You can sign up for any of those at ericstewartgroup.com. And appreciate again. Thanks so much for being with me today. I think that's it. And Karen, okay, thanks, Karen. Appreciate it. Look forward to speaking with you in the near future. I'm glad you could learn in the process. And again, everybody have a wonderful day and God bless. All right, take care.